Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to another episode of The Whatever Man, where we talk about.
Whatever we damn well please. Hey, what's
Whatever
up,
my
Theo? We
mind.
back at it again, man. I'm so happy.
Glad to be back and getting it done. Why don't you tell us who you are and who you got with you?
Oh, snap. So this is Whatever Men First. We got Mellow Yellow here in the studio with us today, and this is the first time we actually gonna have more than two people on the Whatever Men. So
Yes, it is a delicious trifecta of whatever manliness.
the triple entente, ladies and gentlemen. What are we talking about today, Mellow Yellow? Let us know, man.
All right, well, today, y'all, we're going to talk about is the Star Wars movie franchise overrated?
Whoa, 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 whoa. We
I
might
know some people just like swerved a little bit on the road listening because that just fucked them up. You know, they don't like that.
You gotta wait for you start dropping bombs like that.
It's not the whole. They think it's the holy grail of movies, but we're here to definitely talk about how it may or may not be trash.
How you feel about this, Theo? Is Star Wars overrated just generically?
Yes, it's quite clearly overrated. I don't even understand how this is a conversation.
Oh, well, tell us how you really feel, sir.
Well, I mean, like, honestly, if you really think about it, right, is there any other scenario in which, like, 1 out of 10 is good and we call that the best thing ever? I mean, that's what we're really dealing with here. We have 10 movies have been made in the entire Star Wars franchise. One of them was of really good cinematic quality, and yet it's treated as though it's like this holy grail of movies.
Um. All right. Well, I disagree with all that, man. Everything you just said, basically. No, I don't. No, it's sorry. I'm coughing and dying over here because
It is understandable how one could truly feel that they are overrated. I, on the other hand, I'm going to give them a little bit more. You say 1 of 10, I give them a good 2.5. I give them 2.5,
you guys are harsh.
and the
That's
half
pretty
is
generous.
the half is because half of Return of the Jedi was good.
Okay, so wait. 10. So there's been 10 Star Wars movies. That's crazy because I feel like just 3 years ago we just had 6. So you mean Disney's cranking these things out like that, man? Like,
Disney is a efficient machine when it comes to producing anything. So yeah, they've when you think about it, it's crazy. They've almost doubled the number of Star Wars movies
And like
in a
what?
fraction of time.
Real, like a 5-year span.
yeah.
Yeah.
Already doubled up what we
How much-
had in the past.
How much did Disney buy Star Wars for? Wasn't it like 3.1 billion or something?
Yeah, I think it was something around there. Yeah,
Well, they spent good money, so you think they could put out a
a
decent
good product.
All right, man. Okay, you guys not gonna just keep bashing Star Wars like this. Let's get into our topics.
The
All
meat
right.
and potatoes.
The first topic of today is: does the original Star Wars trilogy hold up? Theo, I'll let you. No, you know what? Mello's the new man on the screen. Let's let him open up. How you feel about this, Mello?
I definitely feel that the Star Wars franchise OG trilogy stands up to the test of time because, in my personal opinion, it doesn't matter how old you are. You would share that with anybody, your kids,
Right.
your family, anybody who's never seen it.
Yeah.
You would share it immediately. It's just a classic set of films. Whether we can take out the overrated part, just because of the fact that it's a classic set of 3 films, a classic trilogy. You would show that to anybody who had never seen it before.
Yeah, I agree with that, man. I still like the original trilogies. I
still watch it.
I think A New Hope was revolutionary for its time. It led the way, right? For what a space opera would look like. I think Empire Strikes Back is cinematic masterpiece. We all know that. Return of the Jedi, when it got a little commercial and got a little cheesy, which is inevitable for every franchise, right? Well, maybe not Ewok bad, but I thought it was a good conclusion to the story. The whole ending. This is what saves it for Return of the Jedi for me. Everything that happened on Tatooine or whatever planet it is Luke Skywalker's from, and then everything that happened aboard the Death Star. Those two, scenes or whatever. That's what put it together. Everything that happened on the Ewok planet. What's the name? Dagobah or something like that.
Dagobah?
Dagobah. Yeah, Dagobah.
No,
That's forgettable. But I mean, so that one portion ruined Star Wars for Return of the Jedi. But as a whole, those 3 movies are all spectacular to me, in my opinion.
Okay, see, here's where you're wrong.
Oh,
see, first of all, there's only one spectacular movie in the original trilogy, and that's The Empire Strikes Back. The Empire Strikes Back was revolutionary for its time because it was willing to take risks and subvert a genre that, frankly, it kind of created. A New Hope, I will admit and agree, was for its time a revolutionary movie, and I can see how some people might even go as far as to say the movie is good, but the problem with A New Hope is that Empire Strikes Back exists. Like if the trilogy had never happened, then
Empire
yes.
Strikes Back ruined Star Wars.
I will commend you. That was a great analysis of that.
But it's true though. Like Empire Strikes Back takes what A New Hope did, basically shits all over it, and says, no, we're going to do it better this time around. And so when you go back and you watch episode 4 after watching episode 5, you're like, oh, why was Luke kissing his sister? Oh, why was Obi-Wan talking about Darth Vader killing Luke's father? Like the threads of the movie don't make any sense.
That's on George Lucas though. He didn't know where he wanted the movie to go.
Sure, but that doesn't change the fact that diminishes the movie in quality. And even if you take all of those things away, if you take those things away, the movie is fine, but it's still not great, right? Like the movie did a lot of things first. The way that they used animatronics, the storytelling, the whole space opera, as you pointed to, although I would argue that Star Trek had already done the space opera thing in television form like a decade before, but whatever.
Which came out first, Star Trek or Star Wars?
Star Trek.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
by like 11 years. But anyway, they definitely, as far as movies go, George Lucas with A New Hope did so many things that were really new and inventive and interesting, and that's why A New Hope deserves its place in cinema history, but it does not deserve the hype that it has been given, because the story is shit. Like, it just is. And George Lucas knew it was shit, and that's why he changed so much of it in episode 5 and gave us a much better story. And then episode 6, oh my god. Like, everybody talks about the Ewoks, but just overall, it was like, I don't know if there was because obviously this was before my time, right? But when episode 5 came out, I don't know if there was a bunch of backlash to the way that movie ended. Like, so when I mentioned earlier that it subverted the genre, usually in any sort of hero movie, and that's what Star Wars is really about. It's about heroism, right?
Good triumph over evil.
Good always triumphs over evil, but not in episode 5. The good guys lost, and they lost handedly. That was so interesting. It was so different. You didn't see it coming. As a kid, you're watching this movie, and the whole time you're thinking, oh, well, they're going to figure a way out of this, right? Because they're the good guys. The good guys always figure a way out. And then they didn't. And that was what was so great about episode 5.
I agree 100%. That is ultimately, like, out of the 3 movies, what makes it, in turn, the best of the genre. Because in all the other movies, basically except for Revenge of the Sith, like other than Revenge of the Sith,
that's
all the movies end with the good guys winning, the good guys triumphing over evil, and like I said, to a lesser degree, Revenge of the Sith, but
Last Jedi,
it did it perfect. It was constant struggle through the whole movie for them, and it was a sense of peril for the good guys the whole time. That's why I think, The Last Jedi was pretty good, because the sense of peril was so overwhelming. The odds seemed so overwhelming.
Yeah.
It's just that in The Empire Strikes Back, the bad guys actually won. Like, it never came down to, like, the good guys are in peril, but they somehow pull it out. No. The bad guys won in Empire Strikes Back, and that's what makes it such a great movie.
Well, I think the problem with Last Jedi, and No, it's not getting. I'm not gonna get in the Last Jedi right now. Okay.
Yeah, we'll save that for later.
Mhm.
But I'll
But
also throw in
Yeah.
that Episode 5 has one of the greatest improvised lines in cinema history.
What?
When
Han
Leia,
Solo?
of course, man.
Yeah.
When Leia goes to Han and says, "I love you,"
I love
and he
you. And
says,
he said,
I know.
That was the
"That's
greatest
fucking
thing.
brilliant. It is
Yeah.
brilliant. It created a character that people cared enough about to
Yeah.
even desire that Solo standalone movie, which we can discuss later.
It just
You know
speaks
what I
so
mean?
true
Like
to the
that.
character.
That was the essence of character building and storytelling that you got in Episode 5 that just you don't get in Episode 6, because Episode 6 is riding the ship. It's letting the good guys win for good guys' sake, and it starts strong. It really does start
It
where
does.
Episode 5 picked up or left
Good
off,
start
rather.
and a truly bad finish.
Yeah, terrible finish.
Which one?
Return of the Jedi. Great start, but a bad finish.
I like the finish. All right, here's why Return of the Jedi is a great ending. And let's talk about ending trilogies overall never go off well. I can't think of one trilogy I've ever seen where I was like, oh well, I'm completely satisfied 100% in that ending. I mean, it's really hard
Still haven't
to
seen
end.
John Wick Chapter 3.
I didn't like.
Just
John,
gonna
I
put
didn't
that
like
out
John Wick Chapter 2. After
Kill yourself.
no,
Yeah,
no, I'm sorry, guys. I got a little desensitized watching people just get shot in the head every time. I mean, it was amazing for the first, 2 hours I've seen of it. Okay.
All right, back to your point.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, no. It was a great ending because Anakin was the chosen one by the prophecy. Nobody knows how to read prophecies well and things like that. And it was a nice ending to say he will bring balance to the galaxy because he did ultimately bring Darth Vader he was the chosen one. He brought balance to the galaxy.
Oh, but did he? Because now we know that like 5 minutes later, the
to their point,
First Order took over.
To his point about
Yeah.
the prophecy, and the movies have touched on this.
What?
See, they said that a person would come into the Force and bring balance to it, right?
Right.
And it was a Skywalker, but to the point of what was said about them not being able to read prophecies the right way. They thought they had it with the first guy, and it turns out he had to blow that shit to fucking pieces before the right guy came along to bring balance to it. But at the end of it, did Luke Skywalker really bring balance to the Force?
No, it wasn't Luke. Darth Vader brought balance to the Force. When he threw Emperor Palpatine out the middle of the Death Star.
He did not. No, he didn't bring balance to the Force. Think about this.
Luke
After
was
they
about to get
died,
murked by Emperor Palpatine.
think what happened to the Force after they died. Everything just it didn't bring balance to the Force. Everything died out. Everything just basically just became piled under all the violence and technology of what happened in their time.
Yeah.
Luke went into hiding, basically.
Well, that's
You're also looking at it through the narrow perspective of a Jedi. Like the Jedi talk to the prophecy and they speak of bringing balance to the Force.
But what's
and whether they thought that was Luke or they thought it was Anakin before him, in their eyes, balance meant all light. But that doesn't make any sense when you think about the definition of the word balance. Balance is an
light and dark.
evenness between
Yeah.
light and dark. So honestly, if you think about it, when Anakin or Darth Vader crushed the Jedi and almost to oblivion, leaving a very small amount of light with a very small amount of darkness, you could make the argument that he did actually establish a balance in the Force.
Perhaps he did. I mean, yeah, he did, right? I don't know.
That's a conversation for another podcast.
Well,
but
yeah,
it also leads us directly into our next topic.
What is that?
Did we even need the prequels at all? Like all of this stuff that we're talking about, all this jumbledness, all this gobbledygook, the vast majority of it are concepts that they attempted to explain in the prequels that just ended up muddying the waters even more.
Think about that.
Absolutely.
We didn't know that Darth Vader would bring balance to the Force until the prequel movies.
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
As far as we knew, he was just a guy fucking the universe up.
The prequels ruined everything.
Yeah.
The prequels ruined everything.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll definitely say
Well,
that.
and
Think about this. If they didn't make these prequels and instead they focused on furthering the storyline,
Yeah.
what do you think we could have now? Because think about this. They would have did that. Instead of doing the prequels, let's say they did 7, 8, and 9. And then, say they waited a few years, and now we're at like 10, 11, and 12. Where do you think we'd be?
Well, I mean,
honestly, because this is an incredibly overrated franchise, we'd be watching really boring stories about Luke and Leia's kids running through the universe doing something stupid.
Well, that's another conversation that we'll save for our third topic, I think. But I mean, what have the prequels done? I think the prequels have unnecessarily showed us a bunch of things that we really didn't ask to see.
Definitely. Never asked to hear. I never asked to figure like how Darth Vader came to be. I never asked for that. I thought he was where he was at.
I never asked for Force Baby Jesus. That was not a thing that I was like, oh, I hope
Force
this next movie has
Jesus.
Force Baby
Okay.
Jesus.
Oh yeah, they did that. They
like
made
it.
it. Darth Vader doesn't have a father. Like,
yeah, he was immaculately conceived from the Force.
From
Yeah.
midi
I'm
chlorians.
not
What are those
making
all
I mean,
about?
his only
Oh,
guardian was an oversized horsefly.
Yeah.
He's a
Like
slave.
his only guardian. That dude was technically doing slave labor, child
No,
labor.
it wasn't technically. He was.
Yeah,
He was
it
straight
was
up.
child labor and slavery. So
Thanks for
so many
ruining my
things
childhood
wrong.
memory, Star Wars.
So many things
with
wrong.
slavery.
Yeah, that was child slavery. Like that was,
Yep.
yeah,
Somebody already said midi-chlorians. That was dumb. Like
midi-chlorians.
wizard
the
stuff.
midi-chlorians didn't bother me
It was
as
still
much
just
as
a
it did
stupid
everyone
add-on.
else. It was kind of I don't know. It was not a good
Midi-chlorian count is
idea.
quite high. The fuck does that mean?
The midichlorian explanation was stupid because this is what happens when people try to outthink the room. So George Lucas thought, well, I need to have, if I'm telling the origin story or whatever, now I need to have an explanation for the Force. When usually in fantasy, you just say, well, a wizard did it. And everybody accepts that because it's fucking fantasy. I don't need you to explain that there's some made up, enzyme or some shit in the universe that some people have more than others. That's dumb. And it actually, does it work in some cases? Sure. I could get into a lot of conversations about anime power levels and shit that we don't have to talk
Please
about.
let's not get into that. Please let's not.
But in some storytelling, in some aspects, yeah, that works. It wasn't necessary here. We were already in awe of the Force as this like mystical existence that we didn't know the explanation of. It's kind of like they say nobody really wants to eat the sausage after they see how it's made.
I never heard that, but that's
basically
disturbingly true.
that's basically what the prequels did. They showed us how they made the sausage, and it was pretty disgusting.
Well, but all right. Well, here's the thing: is Solo and Rogue One are technically prequels as well. I know when we say prequel movies, everybody think of episodes 1, 2, and 3, but we all know how we all feel about that. That's been reviewed and analyzed to death. But Rogue One, and I like Rogue One, but I didn't need to know that.
Definitely
I
didn't
mean,
need it.
some things can be simply implied, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Like I really needed to know that the people that got the Death Star plans are all dead.
Yeah, I kind of assumed that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we kind of figured that. And also, just like it also just messes with the canon too when you think about it, right? So like at the end of Rogue One, Leia gets the plans, right? Mm-hmm. And then at the beginning of A New Hope, she's captured and she's pretending that she was on a diplomatic mission and she was nowhere near that battle where she got the plans. Like
In
that
fact,
makes
Darth Vader chased that ship to the very end, and he saw that ship take
he was
off
in
when
hot
they
pursuit.
chased him in Episode 4. Like the same thing. He sees that ship detach, right?
Yeah.
Fly off, and then Episode 4 comes, and they're chasing the ship, and the same ship, and she's like, "Oh, we don't have nothing. We were just being diplomats." Like, how stupid do you think people are?
Seriously,
I mean, really?
like it's just like that's part of the problem with the prequels and with the Star Wars storyline in general. Like I mentioned, going from episodes 4 to 5, like there is no cohesiveness to the story because ultimately it was never supposed to be a trilogy. Star Wars, whether people want to admit it or not, is just got more opportunities, but is absolutely no better than The Matrix. It's the same situation.
Whoa, I don't know if I would go
It's
that
the same situation. One movie was made it became really popular, so they made more movies. If The Matrix had a chance to make 10 movies, you'd have 10 shitty movies just like you have.
To your point, Fast and Furious.
I hate Fast and Furious. He loves it.
I'm
I
just
love
saying.
Fast and Furious.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I love it too. But I
that.
can't wait for Fast
I
and
hate that
Furious to go into space because you know it can only go.
Oh, it's totally going to space next. They're totally going to space
Completely
next.
going to space, man.
They're
gonna go to space using a giant Hot Wheels track.
That's the worst thing I've ever heard.
They killed a submarine with a car.
They
Have to go to space next. Like, there's no other way. Like, you can't. You gotta follow it up with the next level. You gotta go to space.
Okay, guys, I'm gonna bring us back in. I'm gonna reel this back in.
But no, my
Man, I can't
point, my
wait for
point
that debate,
is that like a lot of trilogies were written as trilogies. They were written as these ideas that had a beginning, middle, and end, and the stories were told as such. The Matrix, and more importantly to the topic we're discussing right now, the Star Wars universe, it was originally written as one story. And because it was written as one story, every time you try to tack another story onto it, it doesn't make any fucking sense.
Yeah, it doesn't work that way.
Nope.
And that's the problem with all of these prequels that they keep making. Solo is another great example.
First of all, go ahead, please.
When we meet Han Solo, he's this confident, swashbuckling, debonair space pirate, basically, who by the end of the original trilogy, you find out he actually is a good guy with a heart of gold, right? So now we get the Solo prequel. And at the beginning, he's this swashbuckling, debonair space pirate who, by the end of the movie, you realize has a heart of gold. Why the fuck did he have to go through the character arc that he went through in the original trilogy if he already became a good person by the end of Solo?
I found him to be an emotionless child.
Yeah, he was terrible.
I found him to be an emotionless child.
We can talk about the acting. That's one other thing. Let's just talk about the script, okay? Because Theo's right. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, he had a heart of gold. He's a guy who didn't care and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And then somewhere between that and A New Hope, he kind of digressed, and like as a person,
which makes no sense.
Well, I found it weird. Because in the Solo movie, like, he's doing all this shit to get off of the planet with this girl. Gets off the planet. Years later, meets up with the girl, and she's like low key a mob boss.
Yeah,
And where does it go from there? Oh, I know where it goes. She's gonna be a mob boss and leave him.
All right, so but Solo would explain things that nobody asked for, like, where did Han Solo get his blaster from? Oh, a guy gave it to him. Yeah, I kind of figured that. And,
where did he get his last name?
Where did he get his? Oh, that was the worst
that was
line.
so stupid.
Oh my god! I'm like, who is writing this thing? I mean, I fell asleep on Solo when I first went and saw it in the movie theater. I was like, this is awful.
That was terrible.
And then I just rewatched it 3 days ago, and I was like, you know what? Maybe I should give it another chance. Not equally as bad.
Yeah.
It was.
Best part of that movie is the Kessel Run. That's it.
Yeah, basically.
I don't even remember it. It's not even like
Kessel Run.
Like, no. Here's the stupid part about that. The Kessel Run's this black hole thing, and then here's some octopus monster.
Yeah, I didn't understand octopus monster.
Who just lives next to a black hole? Wouldn't it suck it in there? I don't understand it. Like,
but that's another example of something that we didn't need to see. The Kessel Run was like this interesting part of the mythos of Han Solo. And people would debate it, and they would talk about it, they make references to the Kessel Run, but nobody really knew what the Kessel Run was. And then they showed it to us, and it was guaranteed to be a letdown because we've been hyping up this Kessel Run for like 3 decades.
Yeah.
Like he could have shot fireworks out of his asshole, and it still would have been like somewhat of a letdown.
Oh, the Kessel Run was just real bad diarrhea, apparently.
Yeah.
No, and the dice in that movie.
Yeah.
Oh god.
Like
they had to make sense of the dice after the last. Jedi.
Yeah, nobody understood the dice at the last.
They had
Jedi.
to make sense of it.
It was like, what
it was
the hell
like,
are
because
those?
those dice came out of nowhere
It was
in the
dice
last Jedi.
that you can barely, vaguely see.
Yeah, like Force Awakens and Last Jedi, both of them. Dice comes out of nowhere. Where was this dice the whole time? Why did they matter?
Why did Disney pick that one particular thing? It could have picked up anything from the Star Wars original trilogy to, like make like an heirloom or whatever. I don't know. You could have picked up the virtual chess game.
Yeah, that would have made more sense. The virtual chess game.
Like, oh yeah, I remember that.
These dice came out of nowhere in 2 movies, and all of a sudden they got relevance.
I think they were somewhat in A New Hope. Like, you can barely see them in the Millennium Falcon. Like, I don't
even think they were.
Nobody
go back.
noticed
I should have went back and watched that because I don't believe it. I just don't. There's no way some shiny gold pair of dice wasn't going to show up in any movie.
But the one thing Solo did do that was good was I think it single-handedly ended. Like, it changed Disney's direction that they were going. It was like, okay, people don't want to see this stuff. What would you say earlier, Theo? You said something was coming out that just got greenlit or something.
Oh yeah, the Mandalorian. Yeah.
Who is that?
Boba Fett.
Yeah. But I mean, I don't know for a fact that the Mandalorian is going to be about Boba Fett, but Boba Fett is the most famous.
It would make sense.
Yeah, he's the most famous Mandalorian. So.
All right, I'm gonna write this topic down right here because I want to save this for our next chapter. In fact, I think we killed the prequels here enough. I think we should move on to our third and final topic. Is Star Wars ruined forever?
It just wasn't really that good, man. Like, I don't understand. Like, so many people are up in arms about Kathleen Kennedy and Star Wars and, Rey being a Mary Sue, and you can't have a black stormtrooper, and you're ruining my childhood, and Rose sucks, and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, none of these movies were really that good. Like, I don't understand why we're up in arms about poor quality in a movie in a long line of poor quality movies. Like, I mean, I will say Rogue One I enjoyed. The Last Jedi I thought was actually entertaining. It wasn't a good movie, but it was entertaining. Like, I'm okay with Star Wars just making entertaining movies that aren't going to live up to the pedestal that we put the original trilogy on, because the original trilogy never deserved to be on that pedestal anyway.
Well, here's the thing we need to really look at. Number one, the problem with Star Wars, I would say, are the fans in a lot of ways.
The fans are awful.
Yeah, the fans are awful. You try to do the same thing, they say you're just retreading on the original stuff. You do something different, and they say it's not in their character.
You can never please us.
Yeah, you can't.
We are never satisfied.
Yeah. They are never satisfied, and that's bad. That's really bad for,
Yeah, but I mean, fans being fans is not unusual for a franchise. The problem I have with Star Wars fandom is just like the vitriol that exists, like the nastiness, and like, I mean, they've chased Daisy Ridley and the woman who plays Rose, whose name escapes me at the moment, off of social media because they're such assholes. Like, and it's not even that good. Like, that's the thing. It's like, people actually wake up every morning to get on Twitter and say mean things to people in defense of a very mediocre franchise. I don't understand.
Twitter's often like people are so either offended, whether you do or whether you don't. Like, I mean, I would say you shouldn't respond to it until you're getting thrown in the back of somebody's, mystery machine van or something. Maybe you should pay attention to this.
Yeah.
Call police. I'll tell you the problem with Disney. And this is what I honestly believe. Hey, Disney, and y'all, if you're listening out there, thank you for being our 5th listener to our podcast. But Disney, get away from the Skywalkers. Get away from the Solos.
Yes.
There's a whole universe out there.
Whole universe.
Just
what
cut them
happened
out.
to Lando?
Yeah.
What happened to Lando? Please tell me. The one black guy in the universe just gets erased because another black guy shows up?
Yeah.
He's Childish Gambino now.
You want to know something? All right, so I'm going to do a quick little segue into the video game for Star Wars Battlefront 2. All right? So Battlefront 2 has a story mode, which has never been a component in the Battlefront games. It's all multiplayer. So the story mode is actually, little did you know, there's a segue story in between Return of the Jedi and Force Awakens. And it has a character called Iden Verso.
And that's in Battlefront 2?
Yeah.
But
now look, the story,
Ray
segues.
is in that game, isn't she?
Who?
Isn't Ray in that
Yeah.
game?
But
people,
the story
got mad
is
about
not,
that.
Yeah, the story is not about Ray. The story is actually basically not, if you will, now that the movies came out, it would be a prequel. And the story bridges events that happen sort of to the side of the main story between Return of the Jedi and Force Awakens, and it involves a character named Iden Verso. She's a Black Ops agent for the Empire, and by the end of said story, she flops sides to the Rebel Rebellion. And it's actually a pretty decent story. She ends up, like, has her own squad and everything. They end up breaking apart, this, that, and the other. She ends up with a daughter. It is actually a decent story. And it's like, you're going to do prequels and stuff like that, but you're not going to give us something that can be, it's so easy to do in a prequel. It's so easy to do because you already have all the
But when did
elements.
that had to come out after The Force Awakens, though, right?
Oh, it definitely came out after The Force Awakens. That whole game came out, and then The Force Awakens really dropped. It was a really cool story, actually. It's got a lot of heart. You can look it up on YouTube.
So your point is saying that they can do other stories?
They can do other stuff completely away, because it was actually a good story for being just a video game. It was actually a good story. Had a lot of heart, and it came to an end as well. It also came to an end, so you couldn't keep expanding on something that was stupid. You could do little short stories without expanding on them and giving it something really good and solid in between your same storyline movies. See, that's where Rogue One did it right as a prequel.
I like Rogue One.
Yeah, Rogue One did it right as a prequel.
Even though they made that whole movie just to close a plot hole.
They really
with
did
the Death Star.
And not a big plot hole at that.
That's all
there's stuff they can do for the storyline now.
But it was a pretty big plot hole. They just happened to build this super death weapon that had a tiny vent duct that if you put a missile into it, it would destroy the entire thing. Like that's a pretty big plot hole.
I mean, at least they gave us that one line. Well, I made it effective.
They justified it. I mean, they justified it. I mean, but it just seems like a very long way to go to justify a plot.
Yeah,
it was. It was like a 2.5 hour way to go.
Yeah, they spent a couple $100 million to make a movie just to justify.
One plot hole. I was like, damn, Disney, you just got the cash. No, like burning it.
Like the manager, I don't know, the producer walks into a studio full of guys, like, guys, we are getting killed on Twitter right now.
We need to put something out right now.
But back to your point about, there being other stories. I mean, Knights of the Old Republic is like a famed RPG, 1 and 2 and like that told a story
so easy.
A ton of people care about, there is thousands of years of Star Wars history that has already been written about that could totally carry in the movie franchise going forward, but they're so focused on this one period in time.
I mean, it's such a small period of time. Skywalker family. It's like a 50-year period of time when you think about it. It's ridiculous, right? Yeah, it's not a very
Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous when you think about it. I mean, it's probably like 80 years I think altogether. But yeah.
I guess so. Considering basically how old is Luke Skywalker, right? There you go.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. they follow. They start with Anakin being 10 and Luke being like 60. So it's.
I'm still not sure if Luke was actually a boy when he met Obi-Wan Kenobi, because he looked like he might have just been like a useless ass fucking like young adult. He could have been like 25, still living with his aunt and uncle and shit, and not really doing shit with himself. Like, Luke was a piece of shit living it off his aunt and uncle until Ben came and was like, oh, you're the fucking chosen one. So
I don't know if the best thing about Star Wars, and this is maybe where Disney's going wrong, and this is why Star Wars may be ruined forever, was maybe the best thing about Star Wars wasn't really the story. Perhaps it was, and that's what Disney's trying to do. Disney's trying to tell these epic stories. That's what George Lucas tried to do. But maybe some of the best scenes I love about New Hope is like when like Luke yells like a little kid. You know what I mean? And just like Han Solo just being like a douchebag to everybody. Just like it was the character interactions that were the best thing. And it felt really natural, and they felt like real conversations and stuff. And now that the movie is the budget is ballooned so much, like it's not character driven anymore. It's a story driven movie and not a character driven one.
They made it visually driven.
Yeah,
as long as it looks nice.
Yeah, and I mean that it really kind of takes away from it. And I don't know how you put that what's that, lightning back in the bottle or what? Yeah, I don't think you can. Is Star Wars ruined forever? No.
Yeah, I mean, dude, to your point, if you go back far enough in time, there was speaking of Mandalorians earlier, the first Mandalorian Jedi had a black lightsaber. Like, I don't know the whole story behind that, but I'm willing to watch the movie with a guy with a black lightsaber.
I would like to see that. Like,
Yeah.
what does that look like?
We don't have enough black things in this universe, okay? So I'll take a black lightsaber.
They always disappear.
Yeah, okay, man. So I think we ruined everybody's childhood.
For the most part, I mean,
you got anything else you want to?
I think we can go further, but I feel like we covered our bases.
We could go further. Anything else you want to say to the people out there in Radio Land?
Nah, man, that's it. We've been the whatever, man.
We are the whatever, man. Follow us on
Absolutely.
Twitter. Follow us on Facebook. Links in the description down below. And thank you for listening. Mello, you coming back, man?
I'll definitely have to come back because this menage a trois of verbal debauchery has to go down again.
All right.
I had a great time.
Most
fellas.
definitely.
I got a little raunchy here. All right, guys. Thanks for listening to Whatever, man. And we'll catch up with you next time.
It's whatever.
Peace.
Peace.